All right, welcome back to another episode of Grammys and Heismans. I'm your host, Chuck Walden, alongside my partner, my brother, Justin G. and Grande, a.k.a. JG. And we got two very, very special brothers on the show today. They're not twins, but they are doing incredible things in sports, man. First, we've got the incredible Courtney Morgan, who, he helped build not one, but both of the national championship teams that played in the college football playoff last year before he departed with head coach DeBoer and headed over to Alabama, where he now sits as the general manager of Alabama football. And we have my brother, Walt Brock, who I go way back to at the OVR days. I still got the baby. And he also departed OVR, went on over to Alabama football, where he serves as the head creative director. Fellas, welcome to the show, man. It's just good to see everybody today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
What's up, guys?
Absolutely. Well, let's hop right into it. Walt, Courtney, you're sitting as the GM. Walt, you're handling creative. Talk about how that came together for both of you guys, and just kind of like what that process looks like in terms of where content is now going with just not at Alabama, but all schools. You guys were at the forefront of this, but I think a lot of colleges are looking to have people fill these positions, and they're going to try and copy some of the things that you guys are doing. So kind of talk to us about that process from a creative standpoint.
Yeah, I think initially when we took over Alabama, I think, it wasn't about hiring a creative director. You can go find 1,000 people to go make highlight tapes or highlight videos and content. It was more about the work. It was about the person and the mindset of the person. There's not a lot of Walts out there willing to come out independent, working on his own, having his own company, eat what you kill, starting from the ground up, who's, and also so is creative to out there to come take this role. So it was more about there's only two people I wanted, and I didn't think Walt was going to be available. But Walt said he was interested. it was a no-brainer. They have somebody like Walt who we speak the same language. We understand it's bigger than just regular college football content. Everyone in the country does the same thing, but I think you won't really know the power of what Walt does and what we're doing unless you're inside the building every day, seeing how the thought process of what we're doing.
Yeah, Walt, how do you feel about being second best to Jamie Foxx? They went for Jamie Foxx, they settled for you. So, you know what I mean?
Hey! I still getting to the goal, man. Still getting to the goal.
I want to say one thing, Walt. Because I've known Walt a little while too, and obviously it was SEAL Team 6 until he became, Chief Creative Officer of Alabama Football. When I saw that, Courtney, I was like, man, that is a move, because, like you said, he understands culture, understands where content's going. It's much bigger, like you said, than just sizzle reels. It's creating storylines and interacting with these kids these days in the NIL era. So I was just super impressed, just in general.
Yeah, I think another thing you have to note, like to have a successful, I look at everything through the lens of recruiting, because, having someone that's also relatable, adding one more relatable person in your building helps with recruiting. When people walk into your building, having someone who understands the culture, has a love for the culture, not just understands it, but has a love for the culture, grew up in the culture, ex-student athlete, loves music, just everything that I embody and everything these kids embody, having someone else in the building in a leadership role made us a more powerful organization. And then, as you can see, the results have came pretty quick. Now that we have the number 2 class in the country, the work's far from done. We got to sign these kids, but you can see the benefits of having someone like Walt in the building, interacting with student athletes and their parents.
Walt, a question I have for you, right? You joined Alabama, which we don't have to talk about the legacy there, right? Nick Saban retires, but then they bring in DeBoer, who is obviously incredible. On my opinion, you guys won't miss a beat at all, right? But for you, Walt, coming from running an independent production company like OVR into such a massive powerhouse, right? what type of pressures did you face, and how do you really plan your attack around what type of content that's going to take Alabama to the next level from a content perspective, especially with the new regime there?
Man, you know what? When the transition took place to happen, the first thing that I thought about was, opportunities and ways to really, kind of take the helmet off and really show and highlight who these young men are. And you could see the energy and kind of how the guys are moving around in the building, because now they're able to kind of showcase and highlight who they are a little bit more, right? So the standard's still the same in terms of the expectations, on the field. My thought process was, why not build like an in-house agency here at Bama, right? If you think about it, if you attend certain schools in certain markets, you may be able to kind of fall into different opportunities, or you may be in closer proximity to it. But being, here in Tuscaloosa, you may not have that access every single day. So like being intentional about that and building, kind of those connections, but then also too, knowing that you're not alone in the process, because you have groups like Yay Alabama, who's an NIL collective. You have Crimson Tide Sports Marketing, which is Learfield, where they are interfacing with brands on a daily basis, and they all want to kind of figure out how they can kind of authentically connect with the student athletes. Unfortunately, as you all know, sometimes executives, sometimes on that side may not always know the best way to kind of plug in, or creatively how to kind of do things authentically. So my thought was like, man, how can I be a someone like a quarterback, right? Quarterback or point guard, to kind of really work with the student athletes directly, but also work with Court and the recruiting staff to figure out like what type of things that we need to kind of build out that's going to kind of attract them the right way. And then also, as brands are coming to the table, how can we be authentic, and how can we do some things that are unique? Because what I'm learning in this space, man, and as you all know, you have to create moments. You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain things like, certain recruiting dates, there's certain, practice and games and things like that you have to kind of check the boxes on and create at a high level. But like, what are the things outside of it where you can kind of really make your mark, be innovative? And I think that's what we've been able to kind of hit the ground running and doing it. So I'm really appreciative of Court and also Coach DeBoer of like, allowing me to kind of come in and test some things out and kind of run with it. And it's been a blessing so far.
So I have a question, Court. Kind of just, you and I have known each other for a while now, before you even got into the team side. Tell us just a little bit about your journey. Obviously, you played at Michigan, and just your path, from what you were doing after you were playing to Michigan to just, and then other follow-up question you can also ask her is, I feel like the general manager role is like perfect for you because you understand talent, but also you know how to build and get people to believe in you. So just, do you feel a little blessed that the general manager, that you're living through this NIL era, and that you're such a key person on a staff now? So just a little bit about your story and where you're living, where you're at now.
Yeah, well, it's two-part question. So I'll start off at the beginning of my story, which is, after Michigan, played at Michigan from LA, born and raised, went to college, Michigan, played, graduated, and then went into like medical device sales for 6.5 years, almost 7 years. But during that time I was doing medical device sales, I was always like had an entrepreneurial spirit, always had my eye at doing multiple things just because that's the way my brain works. And I have a no fear mentality, so I'll try anything, right? So one of my classmates in Michigan was from LA, Kyle Cox, started a company called New Breed Entertainment in 2004, right when we graduated. So we're in LA. I'm doing pharmaceutical sales by day. At night, I'm producing concerts. We're doing concerts at BB King's. We're doing comedy shows at the Congo Room. Rebecca was on Wilshire. We had a Thursday night event that we did at a spot in Beverly Hills. I forgot the name of the spot. It was a little restaurant. So I learned the entertainment promotion side. I learned how to structure deals. I mean, to the point we were doing like a Sunday, 2 Sundays a month at BB King's with, Chrisette Michelle, Raheem Devon, Dwayne. We kind of had a small budget. We even did Too Short, Keisha Cole. Right before Keisha Cole blew up with Kanye, we did her last show. Then she got too big for us. We did E40. So learn all that stuff. You learn, right? You learning how to book the venue, deal with people, go to the radio, promote. Right. This is really before social media took off. So we still passing out flyers. Right. We literally have a street team. And during the day, I'm going to pharmaceuticals, selling my drugs legally. Then going to I say that on it. and then going to our little hole in the wall office of Alvarado, Wilshire, at this rundown office above this medical clinic. And it's funny because our neighbor in that building was a young Nipsey Hussle who was recording the marathon, right? So it was funny because we knew Nip in that office, and you watch Nip's documentary, and he was talking about that office where he had to kill roaches, and they had to makeshift that office. So I was there. I remember that, right? And,
hey, Chuck, Chuck needs to go get an office down there, man. Something good came out of there, boy. I tell you that.
Right. So,
baby, rest in peace to Nip. Rest in peace.
Yeah. So it was that, like my whole journey's been a collection of experiences, but the whole time I've always been a football dude, right? Football has always been a constant in my life. So even then, on Saturdays, I'm watching college football from sun up to sundown. I still got pulled in by meeting Ron Allen and Henry Bell, who at B2G, and start getting my hand in the recruiting scene and the talent scene in LA. And it started through doing events. They were the first 7-off-17 or organization to be majorly sponsored by Adidas. So we had the elite camp, and we're flying kids in from across the country. So by then you start realizing they had a network of college coaches who recruited you, and it kind of snowballed to me. Eventually ended up in UCLA, and getting out of pharmaceutical sales, starting over, making no money, realizing that football is what I wanted to do, and I was willing to make the sacrifice. And there was some lonely times. We've all heard the story, no money, instability, and it paid off with Jim Moore hiring me on UCLA, and then started my journey there. And then went to Vanguard Sports with Joby Bragan when he left Athletes First. When Joby left Athletes First, he started Vanguard. We opened up an LA office in Century City. We had Von Miller, Keenan Allen. Those are the main two that come to mind, but learning the contract negotiations, understanding free agency, how to market your players in free agency to give them the best position to get the best deal. Then we ventured off into working with T.I., doing some brands over T.I. So that led me to sit in some big rooms, right? And then having friends, being in LA automatically opens you up to a lot, because a lot of my friends were music. So you kind of end up crossing paths with people because they're sports, they're music. So we find yourself at the Grammys, you find yourself at the Bel Air Hotel Grammy weekend. So your network is just growing, right? My whole time I've been trying to figure out, okay, I got all these relationships. Everybody knows I'm a connector. How do I monetize it, right? Because there's people who have a ton of relationships but never can monetize it. I think LA is a city that's full of that.
You're preaching to the choir, Courtney.
Hey, that's one more time, Court.
LA is the city of connected people who don't know how to monetize their relationships. So, and I was one of them, right? So at the same time, you figure out, like, damn, I know I've been in $1 billion rooms. I know multiple movers and shakers. I know people in LA who can press buttons. How do I monetize it, right? But I was pressing. And what I realized is just stick to what you want to know, what you want to do, which was football. And, when you go 10 toes into one thing and don't worry about the money, everything that happened, it kind of took off. Ended up at Fresno State, Michigan, Washington, and here. And that's like the short version.
Yeah, and I'll say one thing. I mean, I've known Courtney for a minute. The amazing thing is, he said he was in the business of being an entrepreneur and learning the business side, but all through all those journeys, Courtney, you were really a people person. I mean, you were doing business through the lane of people. And ironically, seems to me being a general manager of the school now is all about relationships and putting the right people in the right place. So.
Yeah, and you know what I realized? I look at Walt and I relationship. First off, don't enter any relationship with intentions to figure out how you can benefit, right? And I hate to kill my city. I love LA. LA is full of that, right? People meet you with an angle, right?
Yeah.
Like I always say, people meet you by looking over your shoulder to see who else they can meet or who you know. LA full of that. I met Walt when I was starting my journey at UCLA, making no money, but we just had a pure relationship out of two dudes, both former college football players. I had a vision, a dream to do bigger things. Never wanted to put limitations on ourselves, and always striving to figure it out. And then it went from there. And Walt will tell you his story, and we always stayed in touch through the 10 years of us growing this relationship and our lives taking different paths, right? And, it all timed up at the right time.
And Walt, we want to dive in on your story, because sticking with the theme that Courtney and JG alluded to, we like to call that relationship capital, right? Me and Walt playing nice. We would sit up like, man, you move to LA, you go to one of these fancy events in Beverly Hills. The first question is, well, who are you? What is, not what is your name, but who are you? It's kind of like, wow, like if I was the garbage man, you wouldn't talk to me, right? That's the business we're in. But Walt, one thing you've been great at is maintaining and building relationship capital. So kind of talk about, I think that's who you are as a person, right? So talk journey as an ex-student athlete, then getting into this production side. Along the way, you have been able to cultivate great relationships with people to the point where you got Deion Sanders letting you come down and film in Colorado. You got Desi Banks bringing you to comedy shows, right? Like Ryan Coogler is a good friend of yours, right? How does a guy from the Bay maintain these relationships from a gym perspective and then be able to monetize down the line?
Yeah. Man, you know what? I feel like it's like you said, man, it's just being authentic and real, man. Like I've never tried to enter like a relationship to see kind of like what I can get out of it. I think that's also kind of like, being from the Bay as well. I think like we had that kind of that hustle mentality, but also like we very relational and very pop the collar. But also we know how to move, man. We know how to move. And so when I was finishing up at Sacramento State, I knew that I wanted to work in sports in some capacity, but I didn't know kind of exactly what that was going to be. And so literally I was sitting next to her name's Catherine Sedonis, man. She was my compliance director at Sac State, and I'm sitting next to her. She's like, yo, like, what do you want to do next? I'm like, I'm not sure. She said, hey, why don't you kind of come intern with me at Sac State and kind of learn the compliance world? I'm like, compliance? That's all the rules and everything. But to be honest, like that was a blessing in disguise, because that set the foundation for me to kind of learn, learn all the rules, the things behind, that was kind of governing us as a student athlete. And then the NCAA had this national internship program. Again, it's a national program, not thinking that I was going to, get an opportunity to get there. But because of the relationship I had with Catherine, she knew people at the NCAA office. She helped me kind of, pull together my my interview packet, all that stuff. And I get an internship. So now I'm living in Indianapolis. I'm 24, 25 years old, and I get a chance to working at the NCAA office in Indy. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I got my start. But even before then, they put me on game about informational interviews, right? So I'm literally sitting down with the athletic director at Cal, at Stanford, at University of Pacific, like all over the place, just kind of like, yo, can I get your time so I can kind of learn a little bit more about about what's going on. And even to this point, man, I'm gonna tell you a quick little story, man. I'm at Sac State, and one of my summer jobs was working at Mayflower Moving Company, right? Like to stay in shape, also get some extra money. So we have a job in the Bay, and I'm helping someone move in to the Berkeley Hills, right? So I'm moving them in. I'm seeing all these pictures like Notre Dame, pictures LSU. Come to find out, it's Sandy Barber. Sandy Barber was the athletic director at Cal, right? So at the time, I'm a student athlete. I'm just trying to figure stuff out. I get her information. Why 3 years later, two years later, I'm at the NCAA office walking the hallways, and who do I see? Sandy Barber. And I'm like, Sandy, do you remember me? I helped you move your stuff in. She's like, yo, like, Like, what are you doing? And I kind of shared everything.
China.
Come on, man. Come on. And to this day, Sandy's like a mentor of mine. And then not knowing that some years down the line, I'm actually working at Cal. I'm working at Cal Berkeley when she's the AD there. Right. And so, I mean, some of the stuff you can't even script out, but like, I always tell people like, taking that leap of faith and building relationships along the way. I can name so many people that have helped me kind of get to where I'm at today. And so I go from the NCAA, I go down to Conference USA in Dallas, where I'm overseeing like championships and operations. They throw me in the fire, man. I'm again, 20, at that point, 26, 27. I'm overseeing track and field championships. I'm overseeing men's and women's soccer. So I'm sitting with like seasoned coaches, and I just had to learn how to kind of really build relationships and do things. I moved back to the Bay because I thought I wanted to become an athletic director. So I'm like, okay, I have to get some revenue generating experience. And those opportunities are hard to get into, like from a development and fundraising. So the Raiders had a position that was group ticket sales and fundraising. So I'm like, okay, if I go back to the Bay, I work with the Raiders, and I work in this revenue generating position. Hopefully, it leads me to where I want to go. What happens 2 years later, 2 seasons in? I get a call, opportunity to go to Cal. So I'm at Cal. But during that time, when I'm at the Raiders, that's when Court was at UCLA. And we had a mutual professor, a professor and friend that connected us. So we go down to Westwood. There's like a summer program, whatever it may be. We kind of present some information. And he's like, yo, I got a young cat I want you to meet who's in the football program, Court. And we went over to the I remember we was in the conference room. I chopped it up with Court. He was showing me what he was doing. I'm talking to him. And we've been rocking ever since, man. And so, and then to the point.
Go ahead, Walt. I mean, it goes back to like my number one thing, and you might see me tweet this out, and it really, really aligns with what's going on with the NIL era of college football. It's transformational relationships over transactional relationships, right? When Walt moved to Cal, I'm an LA native. I know a ton of people who went to Cal, right? From my high school. Cal has a big alumni base in LA, right? Just saw GP because I see Walt, a young dude trying to make his way and talented, right? When you recognize talent, I think that's a real gift of mine to see somebody who has the talent. Everybody needs to get put in the game. One of my mentors always tells me, everybody needs to get put in the game, right?
That's great. Yep.
There's talented people who just can't get put in the game. You know what I mean? From artists. Wow. It's funny. I was on the plane coming back from LA yesterday, the day before, and I'm listening to Reason, the artist, right? And I'm listening to his music. I'm like, this one of the dopest dudes out, right? But he just needs somebody to put him in. So getting back to the story, Walt, I had a bunch of people in LA. I had a friend named Sean who does really, really well for himself. And he's a Cal dude, introduced him to Walt. Sean, once you pass the baton, the relationship, when you have talented people like Walt, they're going to run with it. You don't have to, people with talent, you just got to give them an in, put their foot in the door, and you can walk
hold their hand no more.
Yeah, well, I gave Walt the relationship. Walt ran with it to the point where Cal was like, okay, we're going to open up an office in L.A. because you got all these connections in L.A., right? And now Walt's moving from the Bay to L.A. to fundraise in L.A., which that wasn't even the intentions of the job. But my point is, it's just trying to help people and have transformational relationships. Because you can help someone, and you don't do it because people say, well, it's going to come back to you. Yeah, that's true. But the point is, if you can help somebody, right, and there's no sweat off your back, all you do is pass the relationship, that's where me and Walt are aligned, right? We always are trying to look out for each other or other people, and I think that's been a key to my success, is just being able to help people get to where they're trying to go.
I have a question following up. Speaking of transformation, Court, you're in this general manager role that didn't exist, let's call it 4 years ago. Okay. So my question is, in a new role that's so important in general in college football, where we're going, you get a title, it starts with the recruiting, but then, what is the general manager role? And I'm sure at each school, they're all different and everyone's trying to figure out like, what's the best way to do this? Like you're an innovator in this space. Your track record speaks for it in a short period of what you've done. Do you, what does that look like when you get a general manager role and the job description is still being made? How you're one of the guys that everyone looks to. Just talk to that.
I think really, to me, it's not a title, it's a lifestyle, right? It's a way of thinking. Every school is different. Some people just want the title because it sounds cool. I was a general manager before I got the title, and that's why Coach DeBoer gave me the title, because it's like, damn, you touch every aspect of the program. But that's just how I move, right? It was not intentional. It's not always strategic. I always keep it bottom line focused, and I'm like, okay, well, we got to evaluate kids, so you got to be good evaluations. Well, you can't get them without raising money, so who has the money? You want to talk to? What relationships you need to build, right? Okay, because the money is a big part of college football. So I'm going to go roll my sleeves up, and I'm going to help you raise money. I'd rather know that I'm in the foxhole development raising money versus sitting back, why you guys ain't raising money, blah, blah, blah. Now, I need to meet the people too, right? And then get on the phone and help them with recruiting. Understanding the strategy to our recruiting, office and what we're going to do and the communication of how we're communicating to the players and the messaging to the players, right? So I don't know. Every school's different. For me, I think I just touch every part of the program, and then that.
I've known you for a long time. What you just said, fundraising. If you had asked me what you do, I did not know that's something you do. But if you really think about what you said, getting to the facts and results, you realize that that's what's going to be taken to make it happen to be a successful team. So you're rolling up your sleeves and saying, what do we got to do to make this happen? I love that. And I think that's something that everyone's listening, should understand. Like what are the results we're trying to get? And Courtney and Walt, sounds like you guys have just built this exceptional team. And look, the team that was there before, Alabama's been a national brand, but I think in a weird way, it's kind of crazy that this all happened with Saban stepping down because, it's now a different landscape that you're competing at. And people like you who understand how to relate to these kids and always shoot them straight is really important.
Yeah, and also look at Walt. Walt has a background in fundraising.
I was about to say.
Yeah. Walt is, to me, Walt is like what do you call it, a Swiss Army knife too. We're kind of like the same person. Walt is
you two and Trip are like the Three Stooges down there, huh? Shout out to Liv.
Shout out to Trip.
Yeah. Trip's a man.
Trip, I'll say this. I deal with a lot, network advisory, we deal with a lot of collectors and people, and I'm not just saying this because I'm saying this. I was with Courtney the other day. I think the way Alabama moves, the organizational process, honestly, Trip's commitment to getting it right, and pardon my French, in a industry where everyone's full of bullshit, what I know about Trip and Courtney is one thing. They're not just telling you something to tell you something. Like, they'll tell you no rather than give you some lip service. And I think that's what people want. They want integrity and honor, right? It doesn't have to be a yes. It just has to be, this is the answer that I'm going to give you, and I'm not going to change it just to lie to you later. And I think that's what Courtney and Trip on that side have built, which is amazing.
Yeah. And one thing I'll add too is, so from a creative standpoint, right? And coming from, fundraising, coming from working as a college athlete or college athletic administrator, and also working on the professional side, you have to know how to move and navigate, right? There's red tape and politics in every organization. So that's why it's really about kind of building those relationships and bridges to all the other different departments so that you can kind of make things happen. And I feel like from a creative standpoint, it's all about the narrative, right? It's all about the narrative. It's all about positioning. And it's also about getting people to buy in. And that's one of the things that I've learned kind of, working independently, creatively, but also kind of bringing the skill sets from being an administrator, is that in order to get people to buy in, you have to kind of not operate in silos. You know what I'm saying? You have to kind of open up your door, allow people in and listen. Like when I first got into the job here at Bama, I mean, it's so much going on. I literally was popping in Court's office. I'm popping in Tripp's office. I'm talking to coach. I'm talking to the assistant coaches. I'm talking to the creative team. I'm meeting with compliance. Like, I'm meeting with everybody to kind of get a feel and flavor of what's going on, but also so that when I have to come in and present things to people, they know who I am, they know what I'm about, and they also know, why I'm asking them to do certain things, man. So you got to know how to navigate.
I got 2 quick questions there, Walt. One, I'm just so proud of you, man. I'm extremely proud. I know how much work you've put in. What I love about you and Courtney's story, I mean, even me and Jay, all of our stories is very unconventional, right? When all of us go back and talk to a school, it never is just like, hey, we graduated college and then we went here. It's like, we were here, we might have went broke, got the money again, we went here, tried another career, but we never gave up, And so kudos to you, Walt, because you never gave up. You've always been betting yourself. But my question for you is, at what moment did it hit you, or has it hit you yet? Now, you are the creative director at the University of Alabama Football.
Man, you know what? It's hit me a few times. And I think as we've been kind of like, putting content out, as we've been kind of pulling some plays together and things are actually like happening and working, like sometimes I sit back and I'm like, damn, Court and I talk about this all the time too. We work in such a fast-paced, industry, right? Where it's like, okay, you're not supposed to celebrate the wins. But what I'm learning is that in this business, you got to celebrate the wins from time to time, and just take a moment. Just take a moment to kind of like, okay, you know what? We did this right. You know what I'm saying? Assess the things that we can maybe do better and keep moving. But if you don't do that, bro, you're always chasing something. And so for me, I try to like take in the moment of like, okay, damn, we're here. Okay, we can add value. Okay, now like what's the next thing we got to do? You know what I'm saying? So I always, and even with our team, man, I always try to make sure that we celebrate the wins along the way.
Can I say something on that too, Walt? We can cut this if you can't, but this partnership with NASCAR that you guys are putting together, like you sent me that video. I know you're really proud. I mean, that's innovative. Talk to me. Is that a win that you celebrated? How did that come together? That's innovative.
Yeah. Man, you know what's so funny is that when Court and I were rapping about the position, that was one of the first examples I brought up. I'm like, man, I see that NASCAR is affiliated with the university, but like, have they done anything with the program? And like the answer was like, what? Was like, no, we haven't. And so literally in one of the first big meetings that we had with like the marketing team and other partners on campus, I was like, man, is there a way that we can kind of get Bama football up to Talladega? And the reason why is because again, like when we talk about like removing the helmet and we talk about like kind of like being able to really expose our guys, it's like we have to kind of be intentional about those moments. And so going up to Talladega was so dope because one, we were able to kind of move around. We didn't have a lot of Alabama gear on, but I was able to see the power of Bama because they recognize the guys, right? So I'm like, okay. Then we're also able to kind of expose them to the business of NASCAR and like the pit crews. There's a lot of former, football guys that are part of those pit crews. So now you have the guys kind of like wheels turning like, okay, man, if one day my days end here, from a football standpoint, there's careers in other, in other lanes. And then, seeing Michael Jordan, man, seeing Michael Jordan and being able to talk to him and to connect him with Jalen Milroe to kind of take that photo that went viral. All those moments, Chuck, that we had with the NFLPA and, working with all those high level people, like it was nothing to talk to MJ. Not because I don't respect what he's done. It was more about like, we're supposed to be here. You know what I'm saying? And like making that connection is a part of it. So then from there, it was like, okay, after we finished that event, my mom was like, man, we got to figure out a way to get a Bama, a custom wrapped car. Cause I had seen like, 10 years ago, to celebrate one of the national championships, I think it was Michael Waltrip. He did like a custom, Bama car that he ran in the race. So I followed up with our Crimson Tide sports marketing team and Trip from Alabama. I was like, yo, is there any way we can kind of design a car? And they responded immediately like, yes, let's do it. I'm like, oh, so now I'm going back and forth with the NASCAR team to design a custom Bama wrapped car, which is unbelievable, man. It turned out so great. And we were able to bring it on campus, put it in our, our stadium tunnel, create some dope content around it. And again, it was a proud moment because of literally that was one of the first things that I was like, yo, there's a big opportunity there. But also, again, to see our student athletes excited and doing like some like dope like lifestyle type of pieces around it, really kind of changed the game on that side of it. So yeah, JG, that was one of my like early kind of proud moments for sure.
I mean, jumping in on that, Walt, like just talking about the incredible, that's incredible, right? Talk about a show like Coach Prime, right? And the impact that it's having on college content, right? And how that opens up things for you to be able to do your stuff, right? But talk about it from a lens of, we got number one quarterback in the country tomorrow, right? And he's choosing now between going to Colorado and Alabama, but because, these new kids is different, they painting nails, there's a lot of new stuff going on, right? But this kid is a TikTok star, right? So both schools are great at football, but who wants to see who's the better program when it comes to content? Like, how do you attack what separates you guys in the content space? And obviously, there's other people doing it before Coach Prime, but just kind of talk about things like that, where like the content is almost as big as the on the field and stuff for these guys.
100%. It's funny when we meet with the parents and the recruits, I always say this. I'm like, yo, we literally have the best recruiting staff. We have the best coaching staff in the country. Like, I'm not just saying that. And so from my end, I'm like, yo, we got to match what's happening on the field. You know what I'm saying? So like that. So my thought process is being able to kind of like do innovative, different things, and also kind of create different campaigns that allow them to kind of be themselves. So if you've seen probably, the guys, in the locker room, we had some recruits kind of listening to that little baby kind of moving around.
I saw that. That video was crazy. But that's to your music ear. You got some good music ears, Walt. I know about that now.
We brought in, I appreciate that. We brought in Universal Music Group. We brought some executives in to kind of help the guys understand pathways to business and opportunities in the music business. But also during that time, we brought a DJ in to kind of help them learn how to playlist. Because if you think about it, the guys in the locker room, they're the tastemakers on campus, and not only on campus but also within the fan base. So my thought is like, the more that we can kind of have them highlight what their interests are, then the people are going to be interested in it, and also there'll be more exposure there. So to be honest, Chuck, like the thought process is to be innovative in terms of how we shoot and how we do different things, but also it's about creating moments.
I love that.
I think that's the biggest thing. You know what I'm saying? Creating moments that are going to be memorable for them, but also we capture the moments that now the behind the scenes access that our fans get, and also college football fans get, and they can kind of see like, oh wow, again the standard's still the same, but we're kind of approaching it a little bit differently now, from a content standpoint.
So Walt, talk about Coach DeBoer and what type of personality he is, because part of this content, recruiting, you got to have a coach that's with it, that's understanding what culture is going. Talk about why Coach DeBoer is a great head coach for Alabama, but also how he understands our culture, because I'd be remiss if I didn't mention seeing you and Courtney working together. It's incredible to see two brothers heading up as the GM and the creative director. So talk about Coach DeBoer and how progressive he is as a thinker and as a human being.
Man, again, I'm not just saying this, man. Coach DeBoer is probably one of the most down-to-earth guys you'll meet. When I first met him, it was at Washington. I had popped up there to visit Court, and also there was a couple business opportunities that we had brought up there. And I ran into him in the hallway just organically. He was like, yo, who are you? And I just introduced myself and explained it, and we wound up having like almost a 15-minute conversation. And then as we fast forwarded to this opportunity, we had a chance to kind of reconnect. But what's so crazy is that Coach is really big into the content and how the program is perceived and positioned, to the point where we get a chance to kind of share a lot of content with them before it goes out.
Love that.
And I don't see that as micromanaging at all. I see that as like, man, the head man really sees what we do as something that's important to the program, to the point where he wants to kind of see and also give insight. That motivates me more, because like, man, because the head man knows that it's important, but also it's going to be something that also helps lead the program, whether it's recruiting, whether it's capturing the key moments throughout the season, practice, as well. And so I would say that Coach DeBoer, man, is probably one of the most realist people out there, but also he has the what's the word I'm looking for? That emotional intelligence. You know what I'm saying? From what I'm seeing, he knows how to bring the best out of people as well.
I mean, talk about the guys in the locker room, the players. Like, obviously these guys love you. You playing Lil Baby. I'm sure you playing some Kendrick and Drake. Is the locker room leading Team Drake or Team Kendrick these days?
Man, we still in the South, man. So I would say it's still kind of who it is right now is the boss man, D-Lo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Now it's getting crazy. Boss man,
yeah. But I would say, like I said earlier, man, the guys are floating around the building, man. It's a different pep in the step. And again, I can't compare it to what it was before. But from the conversations that I've had with some of the young men, in terms of kind of like, the excitement that's around here for the upcoming season, but also the opportunity for like different splashes and things that we're doing for them. I feel like they're appreciating it, and also you can see it translates to the field, right? Because our thought is that, man, the more that they can kind of be themselves, you know, when it comes time to those tight moments of the game, you know what I'm saying? They won't tense up. They'll be themselves and rely on, you know, who they are, because they know that they got the backing from everyone in the department.
I have a question for Court. You know, look, you guys, we expect you to be right there at the top of the heap for this national championship. You know, do you see the NIL era changing the college landscape of perennial powers, or do you think that some schools aren't adapting, or, you know, just what do you see as schools that are doing it right and using NIL to their advantage? You know, you're Alabama and you're pairing culture with Alabama football, but just how do you see NIL affecting the landscape this upcoming year with a 12-team playoff?
I mean, I think the perennial powers will always be the perennial powers because they generate the most money and they have the most support. Now, depending on different schools, I have certain advantages, but I think for the most part, your blue bloods are going to be your blue bloods, and everyone else is trying to keep up.
So basically, if those blue bloods do a good job of adapting to what it is, they should stay ahead. It'll be kind of on them if they don't, you know?
Well, from a revenue standpoint, I mean, I think the blue bloods are most equipped to adapt, right? You know, I think that we'll be, I know we're structurally equipped to adapt to the new revenue change or new revenue model. I don't think it's going to see the same schools competing for championships. And then you're going to have a couple, not lower power five, but they're dark horses who've done a good job evaluating and done a great job in the transfer portal. I think that schools that have done a good job on roster management are going to continue to still be in the hunt. Like, look what Missouri did last year, right? You know, like I'm really cool with their offensive coordinator. And, you know, I know I worked with him at Fresno State. He was Coach DeBoer's wide receiver coach. So, you know, young, smart coaches get an opportunity, and then schools doing a good job evaluating the roster. And I think schools that have a philosophy in NIL as far as how they spend their money and stick to it, I think they'll be all right, you know. But schools that are just widely throwing money out and not really keeping their culture first will be a flash in the pan. So I think it's just really having your philosophy straight and sticking to your philosophy as far as NIL and how you spend your money. I call it responsible spending, and watching who you're investing your money in. And then I think you'll be okay.
Well, let me add one thing to that, right? One of the beautiful things about Alabama that I've learned in a short period of time is that they support their student athletes, right? So you all are familiar with like the Lank movement.
Yeah.
So how the Lank movement went from kind of like a motivational, you know, kind of piece in the locker room to it turned into a multi-million-dollar business, right? So a lot of people don't know that. And the reason why is because of that, the kind of the power of the A in Alabama. And so they allowed Jalen Milroe, they allowed Terran Arnold to kind of really use the script A, you know, within the Lank pieces. And now you go to the bookstore, it's sold out. They're making millions of dollars. My whole point of bringing that up is that if you come to Alabama and you play hard and you do the right things on the field and you come up with some business opportunities, you have a whole backing of Trip from Alabama to Christmas Tide Sports Marketing to the department here as well, and also from a creative standpoint to kind of help amplify and support the movements as well. And I think that's something that is separating us within that NIL in this new day and age of NIL as well.
And my last question too, to jump on that, Walt, is, you know, sports is politics, right? But the people still have a say in a lot of this stuff, right? So when you think of a Jalen Milroe, who is going to be in the Heisman campaign this year, right? He's going to be one of the front runners to win the Heisman Trophy. How do you guys attack that from a creative perspective? Because I think from a creative perspective, you guys play a major role in if he gets that trophy. Like, he has to handle business on the field, right? But you guys are the ones putting those vignettes together that keeps the people excited about his story, and you're building that Heisman narrative. And so now more than ever, you really need a creative team behind you, even for your Heisman campaign. Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, man, I think it's really about, again, showing the power of Bama and also the Bama brotherhood and it's also kind of like small touches along the way. So absolutely, it's showing the training, it's showing the things that are taking place, as he's building, towards the upcoming season. But it's also kind of like, finding those moments to kind of get him amongst other people, right? So, for example, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I think it was last week, the Rickwood game, when MLB had the Rickwood game in Birmingham, we were able to get Jalen up there to play in a celebrity softball game, right? So now he's rubbing shoulders with Najee Harris, another Bama brother, to T.O., to Des Bryant.
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds, right? Big Papi, you know what I mean? Or David Ortiz, right? So with him being in that space and moving around, yes, it's good exposure-wise, but also from a mentality standpoint, it starts to kind of help position him of like, yo, this is the lifestyle that I'm getting ready to step into. It was dope to see T.O. and Des Bryant and Jameis Winston literally pull Jalen to the side and pour into him like, yo, how are you feeling going into this upcoming season? What are some things that you can kind of work on? Here's some things I kind of tripped off of, right? So I think it's one thing that, yes, creatively we'll position him the right way. We'll do some dope cuts and all that. But I think it's also positioning him by putting the right people around him and also the right outside of events so that he can kind of get exposure, but also kind of get, that nurturing as well.
Absolutely. I mean, man, look, fellas, congratulations on everything you guys are building. Me and JG don't have sons, but if we did, they definitely would be coming to play for Bama football.
Well, at least they'd be coming to play for Courtney and Walt. That's what they'd be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And the odds are with me and Chuck that there will be sons someday coming. So you know what I mean?
Yeah. The way it's been going for me, for sure. All jokes aside, but no, I mean, you guys can jump in on this too. We always end each episode with Chuck's bullshit of the week. It could be, something I saw, something I'm going through. And I saw something last night that was mind-boggling to me as I get ready to watch, night 2 of the Bronny draft, as I'll call it. But my bullshit of the week, JG, I need the NBA to change the age entry rule for the draft, man. I want them to go back to letting the guys go out of high school. I saw the first 10 picks, and I don't think any guy in the first 10 picks averaged more than 10 points per game in college. I'm like, anybody can get drafted at this point. I mean, one guy had averaged like 9 points, 7 points, 4 points, and these guys are first-round picks in the NBA. So to me, the NBA is going to a developmental situation. So if that's the case, let's take it back to the Kobe and LeBron days.
Yep.
Let these kids go pro out of high school, build up the G League, and then when they're ready, bring them to the show. But I don't want to see – because then I think college would be better too. So the guys that'll be there, we know they're coming back for sophomore year or whatever, but some of these guys ain't even averaging but 3 buckets a game. And they're richer than all of us. So kudos to everybody getting drafted, but that's my bullshit of the week, man. I want the NBA to let these kids become young men at an early age and go pro out of high school, man. That's my rant. That's my piece.
Well, yeah, I stopped watching pro basketball, man. I can't even watch the game anymore. I don't even know who's on the roster. So I had to watch it with an iPad to Google these players when I watch it. So I don't even watch pro basketball anymore like that.
LeBron's still playing, so I mean, I'm sure he'll be playing if he pick up and watching another 20 years at this rate.
and the Lakers picked up Bronny today, right?
I just saw that. Yeah, they picked up Bron.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
real time. Chuck, look at Chuck's face. He's so confused.
Wait,
it's done.
Oh, you just did that? Oh, you missed that?
No, I missed it. They got it right now.
But you didn't get your ESPN alert?
Yeah,
no, I don't get it.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news: Chuck is now shocked that Bronny is on the Lakers. So there you go, dude. If you ever see the power of LeBron James, there it just was, team.
That's wild. That's wild. I'm not. Hey, I'll be doing the same for my son.
I guarantee you, I'm not going to say this, but you have to believe when he came to the Lakers, this was a goal. And this was one of those deals that was like, if it ever has an opportunity, I need to believe that you guys are going to support the dream. And here it is. So, I can't, it's funny, Courtney, I thought about this morning. I can't hate. Like at the end of the day, if you had an opportunity and that's a goal that he wanted, he's been a lot to the franchise and good for him. What a cool thing that we're going to get to watch.
Yeah.
Well, I know Walt's a father, man. Hopefully, little man will be playing for Alabama football as a starting quarterback, man. We got to keep the nepotism going. So,
I
appreciate you, Walt, Courtney.
Yeah, no doubt.
Stay healthy, man. Good luck on this season. And hopefully we'll see you guys down the road at the college football playoff. And thanks for joining us on Grammys and Heismans, man.
Same to you. Thanks for having me.
You guys, man.
All right, be well, brothers.